Hi there everyone, it's YoYoMeep, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Jayce. My thoughts, questions, cogitations about this champion started a few months ago when Liquid actually picked him in 2 games, and I thought that that was an improper pick and thought theirs would have been better. So why Jayce? So this clip comes from the Shah, who's a high Korean ELO Jayce player, and it really highlights actually all the aspects of Jayce's play and why you might want to take him. The poke, the skirmishing, the objective taking ability, and the Shah really plays this out to a T. So as we get in, their team starts dragging, and you can slow it down here, and you can see the Shah get a beautiful gated shock blast combo on 2 squishy targets. He then dodges around the edge of the fight for a period of time until his cooldowns come back up, specifically for his shock blast, nets another kill, uses his really quite good positioning, goes into hammer stance, and crushes down with To the Skies. Then he goes back, waiting for cooldowns again, and walks forward, sees him in the pit, and hits him with the Shock Blast combo for, again, insane damage on a squishy target. He uses the speed up from the gate, uses Hypercharge to crush down Caitlyn, To the Skies again in hammer stance, and destroys her with those ridiculous AD ratios. He walks forward using the move speed buff from the stance change, hits with the Shock Blast, goes in, puts down the gate, moves forward, Qs, and just kills her as soon as she comes out of Zonius. There we go, with a few stance changes and the Thundering Blows for the pentakill. And so at the beginning of the fight, which I didn't mention, Jayce actually used his Hypercharge on the dragon, which just crushes down neutral objectives extremely quickly. He is really good at taking these skirmishy fights and then transitioning into objectives, because with his Hypercharge he can take objectives so fast. Jayce got even stronger in the patch than when the Shah was playing him, because now you don't actually have to level up Jayce's ult. He gets a 6th rank in every ability, which is why you saw a bit of a resurgence of Jayce in the previous months. I hate Jayce. Why do I hate Jayce? Because, as you saw in the previous video, he just kind of destroys squishies with his insane AD ratios on his Shock Blast Gate combo. From way beyond any auto attack range, any spellcast range. Oh, and by the way, it's AoE. So here, I'm going to show you exactly, and by exactly I mean according to me, how to beat him. So let's jump into the TSM versus Team Liquid game around the beginning of the LCS NA Summer Split. I've paused the pick ban phase here to show you exactly what TSM has started with. They've started with 2 fairly tanky first picks. This, as you'll see later on into the game, is a very big problem for Jayce. Jayce just can't quite get through tanks appropriately. A little bit later on into the pick ban phase, we see that Team Liquid's picked up Jayce, they picked up an AP top laner to round out their damage, they picked up Annie for engage, they picked up Sejuani for the team fights. Okay, great. The Jayce pick was in response to TSM picking up Azir and Corki. Corki actually, statistically, as I'll explain later, has a very weak game against Jayce because he just can't get in on Jayce, he can't outrange Jayce effectively, he can't deal with the damage Jayce brings, and Jayce is just a fairly good pick against Corki. But the Azir pick is fine against Jayce. Azir scales like a monster, and it's just a pretty good pick in general. But the real problem comes in the fact that TSM has left their pick for last, their top lane pick. So you'll see as Dyrus actually goes ahead and picks Gnar. Gnar, Rek'Sai, and Alistar are all going to build pure tank. So it's going to be pretty much impossible for Jayce to actually poke the backline or get into it in any meaningful sense to actually put out some damage. So here you see a good fight from Team Liquid. As you'll see in a moment, Phoenix lands the Shock Blast combo on Turtle, taking him down to half health, and then destroys the rest of his HP bar with To the Skies. But here you start to see the problem with Jayce become a little more apparent. Phoenix can't re-engage into the tank line and into Bjergsen on Azir. They output too much consistent damage, and Phoenix just can't punch through those tanks. Here you can begin to see the problems the Jayce pick has against the multi-tank composition TSM is running. TSM positions their Rek'Sai, Gnar, and Alistar in front of the creep wave, blocking any possible Shock Blast combo from Phoenix on Turtle. Bjergsen is also very far away, and is positioning for zoning or possible Shurima shuffle with his soldiers. The only realistic target for Jayce is Bjergsen, but Alistar can use Triumphant Roar to heal that damage if Bjergsen ever even gets hit. As we roll the fight out, we see the tanks kiting back a little bit. Xpecial gets a decent engage off onto Bjergsen, but Bjergsen just barriers and backs off. The tanks are then aggressively positioned from TSM to just block all the damage from Phoenix. Phoenix only hits all three of the tanks pretty much, and TSM cleans up the fight. Here you can see that Jayce's damage still remains extremely relevant onto targets with no armor, as Bjergsen just gets chunked to half by one Shock Blast combo. But then you see Phoenix try and go for Turtle, hits Alistar, Alistar heals it off with Triumphant Roar, and nothing happens. And again, TSM's tanks are positioning far forward of their squishies, and Santorin gets hit by a Shock Blast, and nothing happens. So here you see what happens when TSM's tanks aren't properly positioned. The tanks are off to the side, Dyrus isn't there, and Bjergsen just goes down to the damage from Jayce, from Rumble, from Annie, from everyone. While Turtle tries to escape, but no tank in front of him, takes a Shock Blast, gets chunked to below half. Team Liquid can turn and take the Baron. But Jayce's problems are still there. Phoenix lands the Shock Blast combo on Rek'Sai, and did you see Rek'Sai's health bar really move? Because I didn't. Rek'Sai only has one armor item, and the rest of it's health stacking, and he barely took any damage. That, to me, signals a serious problem with Jayce's damage against tanks, especially in not even the late game, considering Rek'Sai only has one armor item. So here's the last fight of the game, and here's where you really see the problems. The three tanks are in the front. Turtle isn't getting touched, he just Valks out of the way. Lustboy turns on his Unbreakable Will, and nothing happens to him, except he dies. Quas is trying to melt people, it's not working, but Phoenix just gets ulted back in by Azir, and there aren't any really viable targets for Phoenix to touch. The tanks were positioned all in front of Turtle. Turtle doesn't die, Bjergsen just Zonias, and the only one who dies is Alistar after his Unbreakable Will runs out. The rest of the tanks are alive, Phoenix couldn't do enough damage to take them out, and he couldn't get through the tanks to actually kill the damage dealers of TSM. So I went ahead and did some fuzzy Jayce math, and I say it's fuzzy because I don't really... There are a lot of different factors that go into team compositions, that go into who won the game, that go into, rotations, etc. So obviously these picks aren't set in stone, they don't necessarily mean that you're gonna win the game, but I went ahead and out of the last 50 competitive games, I figured out the win rates against what I consider to be statistically significant champions. Champions with 9 or more games played. And as you can see, against these specific champions, Jayce does not have a particularly good win rate. In fact, out of the last 50 plus competitive games, he only has a 43% win rate, which is fairly abysmal. I think that this is due to the fact that he just doesn't do well into triple tank compositions, where you have the support, jungler, and top laner all tanks, and Jayce just can't poke the backline. But if you want that same AD mid-caster poke damage, then I have a great pick for you. It's someone who pierces through tanks with an arrow. I'm clever. It's Varus. So hey guys, this is my first video, and I wanted it to be about a champion I really hated, Jayce. and I wanted to sort of go through a VOD review, teach you maybe how to beat him, teach you where he's strong, and I hope I did that. So please leave any comments or criticisms below. I'm just starting out, so I'm open to everything. Please let me know what you think. I really enjoy champion picks, champion bans. I'm probably going to do a few more VOD reviews. I'm going to do some reviews of some of the more important games. If there's a game you'd like to see where I go through the champion picks and champion bans, please let me know. I'll probably be doing it anyway, so whatever. Yeah, and thank you so much for watching.